Hello friends. We are going to dive back into product onboarding. We're going to look at Coda today. And Coda is a kind of docs platform that instead of something like Google Docs where you have to separate sheets, presentations, text docs, whatever, it's basically an application for all your documentation or docs that you're going to use. They have advanced functionality for tables, and they have really nice, they call them packs or integrations with other software as well. And they're working on some pretty helpful AI integrations. So it's what I've switched to in terms of my personal docs. I already know this platform. I like it. I would say it's similar to Notion, a little bit more extensive. Think of it as a combination of docs plus kind of a centralized documentation communication platform. So I've got a fresh profile up. We're just going to go through onboarding because I don't even remember how to do it. Note that I've used this platform before. I've used the product before, so it'll probably make more sense to me and it'll probably be a little bit smoother and quicker. Let's jump in. I'll move my face to the side a little bit. I'm going to use Google and a fresh Google email. And just create a new account. So let's say I'm working solo in this case. Use Docs, use Sheets, use Notion, sometimes use Confluence. Okay, so this is a strategy that I like when it makes sense in a platform or a doc that you're building. Is essentially placeholder content that educates you as you go. So let's take a look. And we're getting a mix of wizard / placeholder content. That's a little overwhelming. That's my first response, is having the wizard pop up while they just told me about this content in the middle of the page to look at. But so this is just telling me how to navigate the sidebar in these docs over here. And this is kind of an accessibility issue here, is these, based on the default image that they put up here, are really hard to see. On hover, you can see them just fine. But these are hard to see. So building blocks live here. And I honestly never used this functionality because I always use the / command to find what I'm looking for, but I guess it's nice to be able to navigate through here. Now I'll say the other thing is, if you watch the SparkToro one, there's a pause in between these pop-up windows on the tour, and I really think that gives the user a chance to look and think about them. At least the Coda team has moved them to separate parts of the screen so you can do that, but having something animated pop up on the other side of the screen while I'm trying to look at what they just tried to show me is distracting, and it makes it hard to maintain focus here. So I'd rather be able to do this if they gave me an objective like check out a template or look at buttons or something. So these are all functional buttons you can add in. It's also really easy to just put a button in there and tell it what to do. So it'd be interesting to know how many users actually use the insert in this way of going about it versus adding content through the editor itself. But let's not spend too much time on that. So I'm going to close that for now. Over here, looking for exit strategy. So they're catering to startups with a microcopy, saying if I want to go back to my main workspace. So this is kind of navigating through it. They give you content, learning content on how to figure out how to build within Coda, how to use Coda. The video course was super easy to go through when I did it. It's 2-minute videos for each section. And then it gives you kind of specific tactical things that you can do right away to get value out of it. So the meeting notes for Coda are nice. They're formatted to get people's input, to structure an agenda, plus AI can summarize anything that happened in there too. Team hubs, the product team hub is really nice, and I think they have sales team and some other ones in here that organize the docs for you and give you a template to work off of if you're not sure. And then the resource hub is a collection of a bunch of other things that are in here. So you have your Meet Coda doc we can go back to. Let's see what it says. I don't know why it's copying it. This is maybe different than the first one they took me to. So that's a little confusing. Data is all connected. So they're teaching you about the product here, which is fine. But where was I initially? Was it my first Coda doc? Yeah, here we go. Okay. So I would say the two docs and having us navigate away from the first doc is a little, let's say, counterintuitive or distracting, but it would be easy to get lost. So we can go through all this pretty quickly. They're just showing you that you can type on the page. You can interact with all these elements. They have different types of UI to be able to do this. So instead of having to type done and maintain statuses or select from a dropdown, you can just click a button. There's conditional formatting on all these tables too, so you could do it with a checkbox or whatever. And then you can set conditional formatting like this too. So this is like a progress tracker. When you get to 100, it updates the status on it and actually changes the visual output, which is cool. So these docs generally are more interactive than a lot of the reporting docs and other things that you're going to be using that are more static. And it's basically an application instead of a static doc is a better way to think about it. Without having to write the code, you can have a more interactive experience with your team and more dynamic docs that are generally more useful and easier to digest. So say we love it. And then, yeah, this is a slash command I was talking about. This is just like in WordPress. So these are your quick commands. You can add different content elements into it, spin up the AI, or even access templates in here. So it shows you templates, tasks, meeting notes. And some of these are newer, actually. From the slash command, I guess, either newer or I missed them before, but learn Coda in here is interesting. If somebody's stuck and they stumble upon this accidentally, and maybe some of these are quicker, more popular options based on what users pick. It's nice to have them there, especially for users who use the keyboard more often. So that's pretty much the onboarding. Is you get this and it gives you the information, and then you're ready to go about using the product. So they give you some example content, like here's a task tracker you could use. What I like usually in these docs when you use a template is that it'll give you the dummy data or the sample content, and then there's a button to erase that dummy data or sample content. So let's go to a new page and let's go to insert templates, and let's say project dashboard. So they're going to give you a preview of the project dashboard, and this is what you can get out of it, right? This is a high level, how many of the tasks haven't been started yet, how many are on track, how many are at risk. I don't love that visualization of it, but at least it's easy to scan. It'll give you a board view so that you can keep track of the tasks. This does sync with Trello and has some other integrations. So if you're trying to just reflect what's happening in another platform, say your developers use GitHub projects or your developers use Jira or Trello, you can connect it here and keep it in sync so that all your data in this platform is in sync with everything else. Here's your status update, your stand up for what's going on, who's owning what tasks, which is kind of nice. That shows workload at a high level, lets you know if one person's carrying too much weight, and then shows you what your project team looks like. So when you insert this as a new page, you do get this clear sample data. So once you have a sense of how you'll use it, then you can clear all of it. This is an interesting flag. I would say this is probably a no-no in terms of new user onboarding. If you're going to give them a template to use, just by using the template and putting in the sample content, you're at 92% of the doc capacity. And this is how they handle billing and stuff too. So if you have small docs that are simple, you can get away with a lot on the free plan. If you start using some of the more advanced functionality like project tracking, like packs integrations and things like that, then they'll kind of bump you up to say, hey, your doc size for free workspaces is hitting its max or whatever, which is fine. I wouldn't point users towards a template that's going to get them flagged in their first session. So if I clear the sample data, in theory, this should go away, but it didn't, and that's okay. So yeah, that's Coda's onboarding. You're pretty much learning as you go, and they give you the resources to do it. Most people are coming in here with an intent on how to use or what problem they're solving with it for documentation, for internal organization. One of the teams I'm working with just went through like, what are we going to use it for? What aren't we going to use it for? And how are we going to structure it? And we're moving everything in here. So asynchronous stand-ups, all that good stuff. I keep my personal to-do list in here. I keep notes from all my meetings and things like that. I organize them in folders so I can stay kind of like have my record without having to open a separate app or anything. I like to work in the browser, and that makes a lot of sense for me. So overall, I would say I like Coda a lot, but I would say onboarding wise, I'd probably middle of the road. Maybe if I'm giving letter grades, it'd be like a C+. I think people who didn't know the product or what to do with it would probably struggle, but I also, people who have been evaluating it probably have a sense of what it does. And I think over time they do a good job of introducing different templates and use cases and stories about how bigger companies use it, which bring a lot of people in too and kind of give them the use case that they're going for. So more direct lines for people who have specific problems to solve. But in terms of generally onboarding onto a different docs platform, I think it's a lot of information all at once, and figuring out, instead of asking me what tools I was on before, maybe figuring out what my first goal was would help create a shorter path towards doing the thing that I came there to do in the first place, in that first session kind of thing. So that's my gut on it. I love the product. I think the onboarding could be better, which is usually the case. But if you check it out, go through the process, leave any comments or anything if you notice something I missed, or if I'm wrong about something, always feel free to drop that in there too.